Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back again to bring you the first look at the Shadowlands Alpha's Legendaries for the healers, breaking down what we see so far, some speculation going forward, and really what we'd like to see. With beta coming out 1 week from the time of this video, it's going to be really important to just pummel all the feedback possible into whether these things are good or not, what we can draw our conclusions from, and what we want to see as well. So starting it off, of course, we got Priest. Alright, so we have some general Priest legendaries, and then we also have some specific ones coming alongside of it. So first off, Cauterizing Shadows. When Shadow or Pain expires on a target, 5 allies within 20 yards of the target are healed for 6% of their max health. It's the Torghast Anima Power Schadenflorite that is going to be coming out for it. So this one, mainly we're going to be looking at it from a disc perspective. I guess you could probably make it work as Holy. I'm most curious to see how this is going to work in like a 5-man environment. A lot of times what you're going to be looking at is running Purge the Wicked as Discipline Priest, for example. But maybe because of the fact that Purge the Wicked is fire damage, and you're thinking about Shadow Covenant maybe finding a way into the mix, you might be looking at, okay, now it's acceptable if we just spec into Shadow or Pain and let some of them expire and then refresh after their expiration to provide some extra healing. That being said, you don't really need to be healing all 5 targets all the time, but the fact that it's healing for 6% of max HP whenever they expire, if you think about it, you apply 4 or 5 Shadow or Pains and having them expire back to back to back to back can be really powerful for helping top somebody off. That's 30% of somebody's, HP force right there. Pretty good math, I know, right? So that actually could be pretty insane, especially in certain situations. Mainly, like I said, looking at this from like a 5-man environment, that's a lot of maintenance to be able to put together in a raid, and as we'll see soon, there's some other heavy raid contenders coming up. Archbishop's Test of Faith. Leap of Faith instead causes you to leap to your target and has 2 charges. So, quick to note on these legendaries, at the moment you're only going to be able to equip one of them at all. And this is just never going to be equipped unless you're in like PvP, I guess, and it could be super insanely useful. This is a great effect, but the biggest problem is you have throughput or you have utility, and throughput just pretty much always wins. In many cases. So unless you have some fight that just really tests you to your complete limit and you need to have it, I don't really see this getting much use, which unfortunately is kind of like not having a legendary at all. I think this legendary in particular raises the biggest question of, can we start getting, maybe not 2 charges, but maybe have it carry 1 charge and have it attached to that legendary as well. Have a utility ability paired with a throughput ability in a singular legendary. Maybe too powerful? Let me know what you guys think. Discipline gets the Penitent one. Powered Radiance has a 50% chance to cause your next penance to fire 3 extra bolts. So that's a pretty long channel if you're firing 6 bolts total out of your penance. And as we saw, if we look at Legion and we look at BFA, penance can have some incredibly varying levels of strength. In Legion, penance was insanely good. So getting castigation back in the day was actually quite valuable, but looking at BFA, penance was pretty terrible, and in some cases you just smited instead of using penance at all. We'll see how the end result of penance actually goes, but this one seems quite underpowered at the moment. Crystalline Reflection. Powered Shield instantly heals the target for 30% of spell power and reflects 30% of damage absorbed. This has been a pretty old one. Maybe you can be adding some decent amount of extra damage. I think this is more of PvP by and large, but maybe there'll be some niche uses where you'll really want to have this because, drumroll please, Kiss of Death coming in hot for Disc Priest, excuse me. Reduces Shadow or Death's cooldown by 8 seconds and causes its damage to trigger Atonement. Oh my god, I'm so excited about this. This legendary alone might just be that little oomph that Disc needs to get it a little bit extra throughput, a little bit of extra value in a 5-man environment and really start pressing it home as a potential excellent healer. It still carries the issue of having to deal with hitting a target to get some value out of it, but if it's a large amount of extra throughput that you're able to get and you can mitigate the self-inflicted damage on top of it, this could be incredibly nice with how much damage that it deals. Clarity of Mind during Rapture, Powered Shield costs 20% less mana and applies 6-second longer atonements. Oh my goodness, this is going to be really, really fun to work with in a raiding environment if we don't end up working with Shadow or Death, which we'll see about that. But another fun legendary nonetheless, and I expect at some point we'll be able to equip 2 legendaries, so maybe both Kiss of Death and Clarity of Mind can see quite a bit of action. For Holy, the Alabaster Lady. Prayer of Mending Healing has an 8% chance to grant you Apotheosis for 8 seconds. Now, I actually made a video about the Alabaster Lady back in Legion. This was a legendary that came around during Tomb of Sargeras, and it was terrible. I can't even stress enough how just terrible this thing was. And there were people who would work it and try to make sure that they try to really game it to its full potential, and it still was just decidedly mediocre. So I'm hoping that this is something that just does not make it to live. It's a complete waste of a legendary slot. It doesn't grow the spec. It doesn't develop the spec anymore. Please just get rid of the Alabaster Lady. Let's put it to bed. Harmonious Apparatus. Circle of Healing, Holy Fire, and Prayer of Mending reduce the cooldown of Sanctify, Chastise, and Holy Word Serenity by 4 seconds. So, important to note that in Shadowlands, Holy Fire is a casted ability. It's not instant cast anymore, but you will have instant cast Prayer of Mending. So it's kind of like a weird trade-off in that regard. But having Circle and Prayer of Mending instant cast and reducing your other holy words, just generally very good when you want to be able to get further access to them. Keep in mind, especially early in an expansion, your holy words are obscenely mana efficient to be casting, as long as you're getting full value out of them. So having more resources and having another legendary that reduces the cooldown, overall, just super great. It's nothing fancy, which is probably the biggest disappointment that I have. It's just generally good. Flash Concentration. Each time you cast Flash Heal, your next heal cast within 15 seconds has its casting time reduced by 1 second and healing increased by 10%. I mean, what can I say? It's another, Flash Heal buffs heal. We've seen it before. It's really nothing fancy. I don't think that it shores up a lot of the problems that Holy Priest can have in 5-mans, but whatever. Divine Image. This is the Invoke the Naru ability from Legion. Whenever you cast a Holy Word, you have a chance to summon an image of a Naru. This will copy your spells, including Divine Hymn, which means that you can actually get a pretty meaty burst out of, extra burst of Divine Hymn by channeling it when your Naru is up. In general, this is just not, super insane unless they massively buff what the Naru is going to do for you. Back in the day, Invoke was, a decent extra amount of healing that you'd get, but it had very little interactivity. It was just completely random, and once again, with my qualms with the Holy Priest spec for Shadowlands, they're not really developing it. They're not really making a lot of big changes as to what's going to make much of a difference, Though I don't know if this is going to end up working, but I wonder if we might end up seeing some Shadow Legendaries come out on the side of Disc. Shadow or Death consumes 6 seconds of Shadow or Pain, instantly dealing that damage to the target and generating Insanity. Shadowflame Prison, your Shadow Fiend or Mindbender deal 20% additional damage as Shadowflame, and the cooldown on Shadow Fiend and Mindbender is reduced by 40%. And we don't have Mindflay, so kind of curious to see if these would actually end up working. As you guys know, Death Throws, this Shadow Artifact trait, or the Azurite trait, excuse me, was used constantly throughout the entirety of the expansion, and there may be some potential as well to start looking at some of the Shadow Legendaries, and it's always good to keep an eye on some of those Shadow Legendaries as well, and see if they might actually end up getting a bit of play. With Shaman, we have the Uncertain Reminder, which again, Bloodlust is going to be lasting a little bit longer, and you gain extra haste from Bloodlust. Again, these are some of the more general ones. You have something like Earth Elemental has a permanent Earthquake attached to it, which is really weird for a 5-minute cooldown to just get an Earthquake. And finally, we have Deeply Rooted Elements. Casting Riptide has a 5% chance to activate Ascendance for 6 seconds. Chains of Devastation. Casting Chain Heal makes your next Chain Lightning instant cast. Casting Chain Lightning makes your next Chain Heal instant cast. Some kind of odd ones. And, well, you could start looking at some niche scenarios for when you would want to use these legendaries, unless you're actually going to be able to switch around your gear in a Mythic Plus. Probably not going to happen, right? A lot of the general effects don't really seem like they warrant or don't have too much merit to them. So looking at the Resto ones, Healing Wave and Healing Surge increase the healing done by your next chain heal by X, stacking up to Y times. For the Focus of the Elder, Focus of Jonat, it was increasing the healing of your next chain heal by 10%, stacking up to 5 times. Chain heal's been pretty massive part of Resto for this expansion. And again, it seems like it's going to continue going in that direction, at least from what we've seen so far. One that really stands out, though, is Spirit Walker's Title Totem. After using Mana Tide, the cast time of Healing Wave and Chain Heal is reduced by 50%, and the mana cost of both is reduced by 100% for 10 seconds. So, you could get pretty much a 3-minute innervate, I believe, if Mana Tide's still around that. It's just 3 or 4 minutes or something like that we've seen on Alpha. So, getting more mana cost reduction, especially with how scarce that resources can be at the beginning, this could really start saving, the player a lot of mana, and could probably warrant maybe the biggest hype as well. Every forecast Riptide also applies Riptide to another friendly target nearby. Earth Shield is increased by 300% if your Earth Shield target's below 50% HP, and Healing Wave adds a stack of Earth Shields to your target up to a maximum of 9 stacks. This one, yeah, Earth Shield healing getting increased by 300% is a really big number, but it's not like Earth Shield on Alpha at the moment really cranks that hard. Being able to automatically refresh it by casting your Healing Waves on the tank is always going to be nice. It saves you a little bit of uptime, saves you some casts as well, but I think this is going to be like, I guess you take it because you're not going to be always using Chain Heal in a 5-man environment. And the priority is going to be more on sustaining your tank, especially early on. We've seen a number of times where, our Shaman got better when you had Spirit of Preservation added onto it, but there just needs to be more in the talent category or even the legendary category. We haven't heard about Soulbinds just yet, which are basically going to be Relics 2.0. There'll be raid drops that you can put into your Soulbinds. So at this point, I'd say that our Resto is getting more of a double down as we're seeing with Holy Priest as well. They're just like, okay, here's what you're really good at. Here's more resources that make you good at what you do. And then we toss you a bit of something out of pity, I guess, for Earth Shield healing, and then cranking up Flash Heals, or having your Flash Heals buff your next heal. They're not really game changers at all for a 5-man environment, the same way I think that Shadow or Death's conversion into atonement healing could be a game changer for discipline in keys. Now, when we look at monk legendaries, important to note that a couple of the legendaries, I even tweeted out at one of the game designers, and he responded that the Mistweaver ones are actually not going to be final, but I wanted to include them since, they're on the website and they're currently listed that way, and offer some more speculation as to what they could be. So, at the moment, they're playing it, or the moment, these are just some effects that were added into the game. Activating Thunder Focus T causes you to exhale the breath of Yu'lon, healing 6 allies within 15 yards over 2 seconds, and bringing Font of Life back, using Essence Font's initial heal to reduce the CD of Thunder Focus T. Now, when I tweeted out at Chris Kaleki, he said these are the older versions. There will be some new changes in the next build. Font and Yu'lon are going to be replaced, which I'd say thank you. This is going to be great. This is going to be really great because both of these legendaries on first look are just not impactful. They don't really have much of a punch to them. They could be good if they just did a lot of healing or something along those lines, but for the healer that is classified as melee and has just gotten completely tossed around throughout expansions in terms of shaking up its playstyle, removing core abilities left, right, and center, Mistweaver needs some more. Some of it is going to be coming back with Eminence returning with your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick, healing for 20% of the damage done to an injured ally within 20 yards. Now, 20% of the damage isn't massive, but this could be an overall very consistent, super solid legendary to run with in a 5-man environment, where pretty much the top target you really need to heal is the one you're constantly going to be healing. It's going to be the tank. And even though haste is going to be absolutely non-existent at the start of an expansion, you can still use Rising Mist to get a couple of good hot extensions in for your enveloping, help stabilize the tank a bit better, and this just kind of doubles down on what's already pretty good. Rollout, you get an additional charge of roll. Invoker's Delight, you get 6 billion haste for until canceled after summoning your Celestial. We'll see what this is going to end up actually being. And finally, Fatal Touch. Touch Death's cooldown is reduced by 60, supposedly, seconds. That'll be coming in. We don't have too much information for Monk at the moment, but let me know what you guys think you'd like to see for Monk, and not only for them, but also for Resto, Shaman, Holy Priest, and Discipline Priest. At the moment, we don't have Paladin and Resto Druid Legendaries, so we will have a part 2 once we start getting those, as well as hopefully some more updates for Monk, and maybe even for the rest. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys think and what you'd like to see specifically with Legendaries. My wish list right now is for Holy Priest and Resto Shaman to start getting a bit more love in a 5-man environment so that they can have some legendaries that shore up a lot of their weak spots. If you want to have a big legendary punch, you should have some legendaries that are going to be more focused on a 5-man environment. I'm not asking for Resto Shaman and Holy Priest to be Resto Druids, to be the masters of Mythic Plus, but give them something that's going to shore up their weaknesses and make them a bit more desirable. Monk, I'd really like to see them move away from a caster-heavy build. I know the Covenant abilities are already kind of pushing them in that direction, but I'd really like to see some more loving to help further encourage a melee playstyle where you're at least using some damage to set up better and better healing. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all next time.